Hello, my name is Blanco, the Artsy sister, and we're continuing with Saturnastra, Deasura. This is chapter 17. Today the conditions were right for some interesting and some intense maneuvers. After tying down Rudas to his compound, we attempted to board a galleon. It had the escort of numerous smaller schooners and sloops, where the loot was probably held, and for some reason I thought that the enemy vessel was a pirate ship, and my collective memory only had a sample of such tactics being used by pirates, and they usually avoided putting all of their eggs in the same basket. And at first the ships kept their distance, and whenever we drew closer they used the wind to put distance, and the sloops had maneuvered themselves to the other side of the galleon. Meanwhile the schooners had spread themselves out and were aiming at our non-existent cannons. And to show our maneuver capabilities, we released the sails and we scattered around the schooners and sloops. And he was doing one of these maneuvers when Rudas threw up his lunch. And Rudas was always tied up because he lost his balance easily whenever the ship moved at high speed. And Gentinis could hold his own with the same balance of an experienced surfer. And while we patrolled the waters, Typhoon was flying over the sky. And we later found out that the captain was much aware of the dragons, since he had seen a departed ship through his telescope. And after the fact, I made a mental note to remember that the telescope had already been invented. And since NASA was carrying a summon force rainbow, and she said for me to the people in the enemy ships, I am truly sorry for this, but my friend is very greedy, and she seems to have lost her moral compass, so please do not resist. And when she returned, I said to her, "That's not what I wanted you to say." "I gave it some thought, and my line feels a lot better," commented Rainbow. "Fine, whatever," I said, annoyed. And it was then when the predictable happened. The sloop fled in all directions while the schooners and galleons remained, and the cannon fire started. However, most of the time they missed, and the shots usually went forward, so whenever the ship flew up a couple of meters, the shots missed. And it was a tricky business, since the twins had to account for the things that were still within range. Gentinius and Rudas then started returning fire, and the lightning strikes were aimed at disabling the cannons, and they placed temporary curse upon the cannons that prevented the powder from within to igniting. And the rest of the spells was theater magic designed for shock value. And even with the cannons disabled, the crew was still determined to put up a fight. When we got remotely close to the main ship, we would get pelleted by arrows and crossbows. And to put an end to this mess, I boarded the ship along with Gentinius, and using his signature weapon, a golden ceremonial mace, Gentinius made a bloody mess of everyone aboard the ship. And the mace was made of gold, silver, brass, about 1.3 meters in length, and the top blonde end was shaped like a stylized crown or flower with sharp tips. And the center had a flat round circle made of a star sapphire, and from the top the mace crown or whatever looked like a 6-pointed star. And the binding down the middle had a small section with a cross inside a circle. I, on the other hand, was using a cleaver falco, and it did not have a very wide edge, and its grip was blue with a golden ore for a panel. And these weapons were useful for crowded battles, and we kept running around the sailors, smashing and slashing away, and since the falco wasn't too sharp, it did not cut too deep, though the force from my strike was enough to leave people badly bruised. And eventually Rudas joined the fray, and he was about to stab someone with his spear when I smashed his face with the pommel and he fell into the water. Soaking, he returned to the ship where Lee fixed his face, and after 20 minutes of breaking a sweat, the conditions became right to use blue flames. And I jumped up to the crow's nest, and Gentilius smashed away the wooden planks with his mace till a blue spark appeared, and soon the mace had a blue flame at its tip, and he swung the mace in a wide motion arc, and the flame spread quickly, engulfing everyone. And some tried to jump into the water, but the blue flames caught them in their tracks, and as soon as the screams faded away, Gentilius allowed the blue flames to die out. And contrary to its name, the blue flame spell is a knockout spell, and it simulates the excruciating pain of being burned to a crisp without any of the side effects, and people usually faint as a result of the imaginary pain. And versing double cast, Gentilius laces the flame with a faint sleep curse, and this is usually his go-to with regards to capturing people alive. Not killing someone in a battle is an art form, a practice that not many people bother to learn, and I had decided on keeping those in the main ship alive to track down the others. Though truth be told, I was not in the mood for killing humans, and poor Gentilius was forced to come along for the ride, And while we were busy, Rudolph had set a blaze on one of the schooners and was returning fire to the ship. Ah, such was the uselessness of our pesky little glass cannon. And using the captured ship's own ropes, I tied down the prisoners and went to do something about the schooners. And I signaled to Typhoon, who pretended not to hear me, and Gentinius shot up a blue flame towards Temple, who growled and snarled as he dodged it. And Typhoon then went about doing what we had asked him to, and he flew towards the smaller ship, shooting a steady stream of flames. And after burning down some of the sails, so those in the crow's nest, and the ships fled in terror. And our ship then anchored, and the twins set about shopping the enemy ship. And we took the cannons and gunpowder and cannonballs, the swords, the crossbow, and any piece of armor or metal. And once they were done, we allowed the others to look to the personal possession of those on board and to pick whatever they took fancy to. And Typhoon was feeling a bit nimbly much, so he started eating the railings of the ship. And much of his own diet consisted of eating wood. And since we were on a ship, we had a limited access to his favorite meal. And realizing this problem, we decided to take plenty of wood from the ship to serve as food for our resident dragon. He was the main reason why our ship was slow most of the times, and we also could not add cannons as well. And we never told him this, but I think he secretly knew, and this was part of the reason he flew whenever there was anything serious going on. And close to that, our cook Gillian came on board and asked, "So what are we going to do with the prisoners?" "I haven't decided yet. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but now I don't know," I said. The prisoners started yelling and cursing at me while the more cowardly bunch begged for their lives. Pitiful, really. And one of them said to Gentinius, "I'll tell you where the loot went. Just let me join your crew." "You are barking up the wrong tree, my friend," said Gentinius, chuckling. "And I do not need that information anymore. I already know where you're headed," I explained. And indeed, the combined memory fragment of all of the captains had pointed me in the direction, or should I say directions. And I bought some favors from those who were willing, and stole a few talents from those who were most persevering. And a couple of the other captains had bounties on their head in certain holds. And these we separated from the others in addition to the powder monkeys who wanted to join our crew. And once we were done with the ship, we released the prisoners and went our merry way. And the galleon did not have any weapons to defend itself with, so it was no threat to us. While Selene had noticed the oculus Cash going through his rounds. And I took that time to obtain recent information about the ocean floors, and while his underlings were exploring the land, he was amusing himself by exploring the seven seas. Even in this day and age, the ocean still plays a second fiddle to the events happening on the mainland surface. And aside from a few monoliths here and there, so far the ocean was uneventful. And he did inform me of the underwater crossroad, and it wasn't so much of a crossroad in the traditional sense, since it was not man-made. However, animal drugs also work for summoning, my dear Karina. And the summoning was made in the place where the two ocean currents crossed, and a warm salty one heading to the north, and a cold under-salty river headed to the east. And Karina did not seem too amused to be summoned underwater, and she swam towards the surface, and we had a meeting on the ship. And using what was left of my route, I passed on the loot of the day. And this was the first time the others had seen her, and they were not too amused. And I also gave her the custody of the 5 men who had large bounties, and her demons came forth and sank with the prisoners below the waves. And while they were gone, Rudolph was the first to complain. "So let me get this straight, all this hard work is for the benefit of those demons," asked Rudolph. "You are only saying this because I accidentally struck you with my pommel," I said coolly. "You did it on purpose. Stop changing the subject, dear Rudolph," and the crew started going about their business, stoically ignoring the youth. "And what I do with my money and my ship is none of your business, and if you're itching for your cut, well, there's none to be had because, as before, you were completely useless," I said, folding my arms. "How can I be useful if you keep getting in my way?" he snapped. And he was going to continue arguing with me, so I jumped off the ship, and he made a motion to follow using his magic. However, he lost track of me through my cloud of sharks, and my good friends had already returned from their oceanic exploration. And since they had been good to me, I led them towards profitable fishing grounds, and it was easy since the Oculus Cash had already explored most of the ocean floor in this general vicinity. And it was a slow progress since he had to come through the same location at several different times of the year to see if anything changed depending on the season. And while swimming and hunting with my companions, I saw a large part of 2,000 dolphins, pilot whales, and dusky dolphins. sociable enough they were done to the outboard in the school of sharks, and always weary of dolphins, the sharks made their usual getting close and retreating gimmicks, and to mock them, the dusky dolphins started blowing bubbles. And to keep things from escalating, I petted a shark's nose, and then I grabbed a bit of seaweed and presented it to one of the dolphins. Eventually, both sides settled down. Underwater diplomacy was a tough business indeed, though at least the sharks were hesitant to make war against another fellow predator, and I have always found sharks easier to get along with, and those two-faced dolphins are too close to humans in their minds and are thus prone to engage in unsavory behavior, like playing with food or arbitrary murder or something worse. And I came and I still was not in the mood to return to the ship, and would have had several of what was supposed to be a fun day of maritime exploitation. And it is so annoying to always have someone question everything you do. Month 3, day 31, year 5. The new powder monkeys have integrated well as I had expected. I do not expect much from humans, and they never disappoint, and like the others who came before, there was the usual argument about my position as captain, and everyone says they can do better just because they have accumulated more mistakes. All in all, we have about 70 new people in our crew, and to reach full working order, we still need another 50. And traditionally, powder monkeys perform in the ship the most menial jobs, and I will not deny that they are also scraping the bottom of the barrel in my crew. However, at least they do get fed twice a day and get regular exercise and training and education. As far as education is concerned, I teach them the basic reading and writing and the times table, and so generic facts about the world like the calendar, the stars, the seasons, which way is north, and so forth. Judah also helped me in this regard, teaching them about ships, and whenever the cat lives in a good mood, he will make himself useful by reading to them. I am an inch away from throwing everyone off the ship. Month 14, day 1, year 5. More than half the new powder monkeys have been exiled from the ship, and after showing plenty of behavior disturbances and unwillingness to play ball, and I had taken upon me to exile them, and for the past month I have been observing their behavior with the gossiping and attempt of bullying and overall being a pain in my neck. And they were so conditioned that they would not perform the simplest task without getting a few good smacks in the face. And naturally, torture is a policy that we not adhere to, so over time their behavior became more unbridled till I say plainly to the offending party, "It is my way or the highway." And as most cliches go, they tried a little mutiny, and those who had seen me in battle pretended to go along with them. However, when the time came, they abandoned their fellow comrades to their fate. And while they argued and made demands, my crew stoically ignored them, going about their business. And I too was at a loss as to what to do with the situation. And my ship didn't have lifeboats since all of the kids knew how to swim. And in the eventuality that it sunk, I could easily put all of the supplies to safety. And then there was Typhoon could fly, and I also had Cleese and Atagarty who could serve as godly lifeboats without taking up too much room in the ships. The long and short of it is that my two options were to kill them and to have them die in the open ocean, and in the end I said to them, I have only two options, either die now or later. And before they could answer, Typhoon had returned from his flight, and he had gone back to his formal training. Even without a sparring partner, he was still practicing aerial maneuvers, and grabbing the wrist of the leader, I threw him overboard, and the others tried to run away or attack some of my crewmates. And the two that did manage to get close enough to almost hurt someone were immediately put down by Rudolph. And with nowhere to hide, the others leaped out of the ship, and Typhoon went towards the side of the boat, tilting it side to side ever so slightly, and remembering his sight, Typhoon flew to watch them drown, and the sharks left them alone though a passing dolphin came by and offered to help them. And now unaware of the positive reputation of dolphin, one of the powder monkeys punched it right in the snout like some common shark, and annoyed the dolphin bit the young man's lip and kept him underwater till he drowned. And the dolphin did the same to the two other kids before Typhoon intervened and flew them to safety, and he dropped them off on the deck of a nearby schooner. And much to Typhoon's chagrin, the sailors thought the powder monkeys were attacking, so they got butchered nonetheless. All in all, it is an ideal I hope not to repeat. Month 15, day 31, year 5. The new year brought with it some profitable ventures, and we made contact with the pirates patrolling the Sea Dragon Archipelago, aka the Water Kingdom, and control over this region was quite lax, and it's even more so since I made a mess of Mita's Navy capacity. And according to the pirate captain Calico Rex, the Navy was starting to recover due to the pressure being placed on the cartridge, and this recovery was only superficial since the cartridge had naturally cut down on the quality to meet the rising demand for their ships. and cutting into the mountain, the soul has been left naked in Mita, and it was probable that another landslide would occur in the following year. At least out of the seasons were business as usual. And as for Calico, he had been in the game for more than 2 decades, and like me, he did not have the patience or the connections to make it big, legitimately speaking. And the interesting thing about his vessel was the bells, and he had cowbells rigged all over his ship, and to be successful in the pirating business, each pirate good needed a gag, a flag, or some sort of gimmick, something to make them recognizable against the whitewash of has-beens. And my ship's gimmick was apparently its shape and the magic and the dragon, and as of late it has made it hard to operate since the ships fled whenever they caught sight of our sails, and not that it mattered much in the long run since we always got caught up to them, and I agreed to meet with Calico once every 3 months in the island of Liberty for the purpose of trading. And Liberty had been founded by a former slave ship captain named Victor and a priest of Hemi, the goddess of truth, and during a prolonged voyage, the priestess converted Victor to her way of thinking, and together they founded this little utopia ruled under the white flag. And they founded something that had a semblance of democracy based on the belief that all men and women were created equal, and every year they boosted their numbers by freeing slave ships. And frankly, I'm not too human by the idea of visiting Liberty. I just left Liberty a couple of hours ago, and as I had expected, it was a real mess, insomuch as Liberty was nowhere to be found. On the surface, there were the drunken debauchery one would expect of a pirate settlement. However, upon closer look, those who had to stay permanently on the island were on pins and needles, and the air stank of occultism, and none of the free slaves was willing to talk about what was truly going on. And when asked to join a crew, the locals would politely decline and say, "No thank you, our home is here, and we never want to leave." And familiar with coast leave said as soon as we docked, "Well, this looks familiar." "Yeah, great, more religious fanatics," said Rudolph, rolling his eyes. And when my crew stretched his leg, I met Calico in the pearl necklace bar/brothel. And due to the nature of the place, Liz came along as my chaperone, and due to his clothing, the patrons automatically recognized him as a priest of Erua. So he was treated with a respect out of superstitious fear that a curse from his lips would spell perdition out at sea. And sitting down in a dingy stool surrounded by drunken seamen, I said to Calico, "And what do you want to discuss? I was so imperative that we meet in this hellhole." "Forget these accommodations, my," started saying Calico. "Look, I'm a very busy woman, and you're not so charming that I would enjoy engaging in small talk with the likes of you. Just tell me what you want so I can go on with my life," I said, exasperated. Pouted Calico. And he was about to say what he truly wanted when I said, "Oh, what a bother." "I'm not used to that gimmick of yours," said Calico. "And how do you manage?" "Better than those of my peers. The trick is sorting through all of the garbage and isolating the foretop before the tongue has a chance of putting things in perspective. And I do not expect you to understand. Frankly, my answer is no. And I do not see what it is to gain from this little venture of yours," I said, frowning. "Going legit for once," said Calico, smiling. "I don't know, I already burned that bridge, and I doubt they would take me back after what I did to Mita," I said, and I added, "I will have to think about it though." "Don't take too long to decide. Places like Liberty do not last more than 20 years, said Calico. "I suppose his expiration date is just around the corner," I said, yawning. "Pity that their collected memory is so short," said Calico, drinking from his booth. "You expect too much of people who weren't able to make it in the real world, and I too am guilty of that sin," I said, getting up, and then I said to leave. "I am in a performing sort of mood, and let's do your jellyfish dance together like we used to." It has been sometimes as I perform in front of an audience," says Leaf, stretching his elegant limbs. And curious Calico and his men clear the tables and the drunken dancers to give way for our act. And make way for the high priest Erua and his lovely assistant, make way and marvel as they performed the jellyfish ritual dance. We got into position, stoically ignoring all of the jeering and hooting of the audience, and Liz unfastened the belts from his outfit, and I stretched my armbands until the size of the bed sheets and got inside. And after removing it quickly, I was in my proper dance outfit, and the speed of my wardrobe change alone was enough to merit some clapping. And then I started to die down somewhat because they thought that they were going to see a flashing magic show or something. With the belts tied to each of our joints, there was not a single movement we could make that went unheard. The best part thought about the costume was the round bulbous hat with the ribbons and feathers and pearls to serve as a stylized depiction of the tentacles of a jellyfish. And as for our outfit, it was made like the oral arms of the jellyfish. And Liz had been practicing his jellyfish dance in the ship before we docked, so when we arrived, his silly hat had caused quite a commotion. His costume was based on a flamboyant flower hat jellyfish with its bright orange colors with the pink tips at the end of the rivers. And since it was dark, I chose a crystal jellyfish look with most of the attire being see-through except for the parts that emitted bioluminescence like the tentacles and my blue dress. And we started our dance by lazily bobbling about like jellyfish normally do. And it was so nice and relaxing, and so people were starting to fall asleep. Then a storm came, and we started flying erratically and jumping and falling as a wave. And at the climax, we started turning in circles all over the bar, knocking over stuff and bumping into people in our dizzy dance. And when we stopped, we returned to our old bobbling, which was somewhat wobbly, slow performance, till we fell to the floor with the room turning around us. And a few people gave scant claps while the others clapped with enthusiastic sarcasm. All in all, nobody knew what to make of this strange dance, and this reaction was nothing new. In fact, the Deasura religion seemed to thrive as a result of these bizarre displays. And variety is the spice of life, after all. At the end of the day, I decided to take a Calico's offer. I had nothing to gain in protecting Liberty, and the people there were awful, no different than their mainland counterparts. And the only difference between them and the other was that the people in Liberty practiced piracy. Needless to say, I did not linger after speaking with Calico, and we both had a deep disappointment and resentment towards the city. The place had to go, plain and simple. Alright, that's the end. Yeah, that was chapter 70. Bye bye and God bless.